Hi guys, welcome to the channel. I'm Office Bloke Daz.
I'm Gaynor.
Right, Gay, what we're going to talk about today is we're going to continue our series of the USA versus the UK.
Yeah.
And we're going to compare from when we lived there to living in the USA and living in the UK.
Yes.
So we spent a lot of time in the USA, as people know. We spent 14 years in the UK, 14 years in the UK, wasn't it? Was it 14? 12. 12 years in the UK, in the USA.
Yeah.
And we've been back here now in the UK for
nearly 7.
7 years. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's so we can compare. I think we're on a good enough level to sort of like know the difference between what we had to offer in the USA and what we had to offer in the UK. So what we're going to discuss today is houses.
Yeah.
And what we lived in the USA compared to what we lived in the UK.
Yeah.
And how the houses differ between the two.
Yeah.
So I'll start off with giving you something to sort of like think about.
Right.
One thing you get in the USA that you don't always get here: a garage or a garage.
Yes.
Most houses come with a garage in the UK, the USA.
Yeah.
So in our house we had a 2-car garage.
We did.
Yeah. Only parked the car in there really when it snowed.
Yeah. We never really used it.
And in the UK, you don't really get them. Only on real big houses would you get a garage.
Yeah, most of the houses in the UK, you don't even get a parking space. It's just the road.
Street parking, on-street parking, yeah.
And they're called terraced houses.
Yeah, yeah. And I drive home down a road when I leave here at night, and my car is probably about that far away from each side of the road.
Yeah.
The cars, and it's a one-way system now. They had to make it one-way because if a car comes the other way, you're done.
Yeah.
But yeah, these. But in the houses, definite big thing you'd flag up straight away is the garages.
Yeah.
Where we don't really get them over here, and in the USA they're pretty common.
Yeah, if you have a garage, you're quite wealthy.
Over here?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's usually the higher end houses.
Yeah.
And plus what a lot of people do in the UK as well is they convert any garages they have, they convert them.
Yeah.
So a lot, if you in a smaller house, you just about get one car in on a lot of houses with the one car garage. Like 1930s, they started putting these houses up where they're like semi-detached, where they come 3-bedroomed, living room, kitchen, hallway, little sort of like storage closet, and then a garage on the side.
Yeah.
And the garages were, a lot of people converted them into an extra room. Because they couldn't get planning permission to build further onto them.
Yeah, and the difference, we build our houses from brick.
Yeah.
Not so much now, the new builds.
Now, the new builds are brick. Still brick, but it's brick.
But they're not like they used to be. They used to be proper sturdy brick.
Well, what they used to do, when they used to build them, it was one brick at a time.
Yeah.
Now they're coming, what do you call it, modular.
Yeah.
So it's like a big stack of bricks. They put it on and they cement that to the breeze block.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's that's the one thing I noticed straight off the bat.
Yeah, we don't have siding.
No siding whatsoever. No, it's and anything else you can think of that springs straight to your mind about houses that differ from the USA to the UK?
The UK mainly have one bathroom.
I'd say the size. I was going to say size.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've been in houses in the USA where there's been one bathroom.
Yeah.
But it's very, very.
But normally, even like our first house, which was a 2-bed apartment, we had an ensuite bathroom
And a family bath.
And a family bath.
Yeah. So it was two. That was classed as 2 bathrooms, 2 bed, 2 bath.
Yeah.
And then you have a half. People always say to me, "What's a half bath?"
It's a toilet.
It's a toilet, yeah. It's a toilet with a basin.
Sink,
yeah. But it was, over here, en suites are more of a modern thing.
Yeah.
It's if you go back into the old time houses from the 30s, 20s and below, you never really got an ensuite.
No, you didn't.
It was just a case of 3 bedrooms and a family bathroom,
Yeah.
or 2 bedrooms, what they called a 2 up, 2 down, which we first lived in.
Yeah.
When we first got married.
Yeah.
Was a 2 up, 2 down. So you literally walked into your house off the pavement.
Yeah.
We had a tiny little garden, which was, well, I wouldn't want a garden.
No,
It was
just
an area, concrete.
Yeah, concrete
between the sidewalk and the front door.
Yeah.
And you'd literally walk in and you were straight into the house.
Yeah, straight into a
living room.
And then straight into a kitchen.
We had a living room combined, dining room,
Yeah.
open plan, and then a kitchen at the back. The kitchen was probably tiny.
It was tiny. You couldn't have a door. It was just like little
It was a sliding door we had.
No, that was on the toilet upstairs.
No, we had a sliding door in the kitchen.
I thought it was open.
No, it was a sliding door, but it was it was tiny. But that's the difference. When we went to the USA and we saw, like, when we first bought our house in the USA, I think we bought something that was quite nice, like a 4-bed, 2.5 bath.
Yeah.
Sort of like with a basement. Another thing you don't really get over here is a good full basement.
Yeah.
We didn't finish our basement. It was kind of semi-finished, wasn't it?
It was. We had our washing machine driver down there. The kids had the toys down there, but it wasn't.
But it was a very dry basement.
Yeah.
It was quite warm. It wasn't very cold.
No.
And in the summer it was quite cool.
Yeah.
But at the same time, when you had in the UK, if you get cellars, which is more likely than a basement.
Well, it's steep as well.
Very steep to get down, very damp still.
Yeah, smells.
Very musty sort of
dark.
smelling, dark. Yeah, it's more like for keeping wine, I would say.
Yeah,
it's
no,
ideal for wine.
no windows at all.
Yeah, nothing.
Whereas in the US, they have like small windows at the top.
But even in the US, you used to get like walkout basements.
Yeah.
Yeah, sort of thing. And the other one is a big thing over here where you get a lot of over here, which I don't ever remember seeing one in the USA. Was I really don't like them. Do you know what I'm talking about?
No.
A conservatory.
Right. Okay.
I think they look awful.
Yeah.
It's just not for me whatsoever. And it's, you know, I don't, for anyone watching from the USA who doesn't know what a conservatory is, it's like a greenhouse. It's like a greenhouse that's attached to your house. It's made of glass with like, you know, usually UPVC framing that goes around. They can look quite nice.
Yeah, the nice ones are called orangeries.
Orangeries, they call. That's more of a modern thing. They call them that, isn't it? Because people want to
But
try and
I have
sound.
noticed a lot of people in Florida have this kind of glass room off their house, which is similar to a
But it's kind of like built.
conservatory.
The ones I've seen in Florida is kind of built into the design of the house, so it's more of like a glass room.
Yeah.
Whereas a conservatory is more of a glass building attached to your house.
Yeah,
it's not part of it's not part of the house. Whereas if you knock the wall, you've got outside brick on a lot of them on the inside.
Yeah.
And for me, it's just not.
And also, we
It's
get
not my
a
cup of tea.
lot of rain, and it gets really dirty. So
Yeah.
you're constantly having to like hose it down.
Yeah, they're just not for me. They just don't.
No.
I just don't see the point of sitting somewhere where you're gonna roast when the sun's shining, and it gets very, very hot.
Yeah.
For no real reason.
And they're not
no
heated,
benefit.
so
No, there's no
freezing
benefit of them.
in the.
I just don't get them. Don't get people who have them. And again, it's all a matter of taste. But for me,
Yeah, no, I'm not a fan of them.
But the other thing you get as well is over here for space-wise, the gardens are quite small.
Yeah, very small.
Even for a big house that you buy a big house, you're still going to get a relatively small garden, I would say.
Yeah.
Whereas in the USA, it's quite common to buy a big house and get a lot of garden with it as well.
Yeah,
You know,
there's
you
just
get like-
there's just no space over here. There's no land.
No, not unless you want to buy a farm.
Yeah.
Or live in the middle of nowhere in
Yeah, where
farmland.
there's nothing. You have to drive like an hour to, get your groceries.
But even then, you know, I've seen houses that come up for sale in like areas like I classify North, which is quite middle of nowhere. I know Dave lives there.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of new builds down there with like, you know, the advertisements, big gardens.
Yeah.
And when you go down, they're not as big as what you would
No.
what I would think classify as big.
Yeah. Well, we had a really big garden. Ours kind
We
of
did.
wrapped around,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
we separated the whole garden in the middle. One side was the pool and
Yeah.
the bar,
Yeah.
and then the other side was the children's play area. We had like built.
Yeah, it's all fenced off so the
Yeah.
kids didn't wander into
Yeah,
the pool or the
yeah.
bar area for that
Yeah.
matter. So they weren't helping themselves to the
Yeah.
to the offerings, let's say. But yeah, and that's another thing. Swimming pools.
Yeah.
It's very rare you get swimming pools.
Yeah.
I know your mum had one.
Yeah.
But one of the few people I did know that had a pool.
Yeah.
But it's very uncommon.
Yeah.
And I think the only people who have pools over here would be like the very, very wealthy.
Yeah.
Footballers, and they'd have them built into the house.
Yeah, they have it.
So it's like an indoor
they're
pool.
inside.
Yeah.
You can use them all year round.
Yeah.
My mum's was only like during the summer.
Yeah, yeah. But they're the main things. But even the other thing, you know, the interior designs of them. You know, I remember when we lived in Houston, the master bedroom was downstairs.
Yeah.
Do you remember?
Yeah.
And it was kind of like weird for us.
I think
like,
it's because of the heat, wasn't it?
So they said it was something to do with that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's downstairs is cooler.
Yeah.
And if you think when we used to go upstairs, the kids' rooms were quite warm.
But we had air conditioning,
Yeah.
which is another thing you don't get over here.
No.
It's in the summertime. We do get occasionally a couple of weeks, maybe a month a year, spread over many days.
Yeah.
A very, very extreme hot weather.
Yeah.
When I say extreme hot weather, it's not extreme that we've known it because we've lived in the desert.
Yeah,
but it can get very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And it can get into the late 30s.
Yeah.
I think this year broke 40.
And especially where we are now, because it's all glass.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very hot in the house we're in
Yeah.
now. But we've got air conditioning.
Yeah.
So I think we're the only ones in the building with AC. But you know, when you went to the USA and it was like a hot day and you walk into your house, you had nice AC on, central AC as they say,
Yeah.
and it's it cooled down, and then in the winter it turns similar to what we've got now.
I'll tell you what I found really weird as well, which I've never seen it over here, is the central vacuum.
Yeah, I forgot about that, the central vacuum. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you would have a thing
I wonder
in the
if that's
wall.
I wonder if that's still a big thing in the USA. Let us know. If you're watching from the USA, let us know if the central vacuum's still a big thing. I forgot about that. Yeah. Because you used to just sort of like plug it into somewhere in the wall, and that
Yeah,
just
you
had the hose, didn't
you
you?
just took your hose and plugged it into the wall in all the rooms, and that's where the vacuum cleaner came from. It wasn't like a vacuum that you...
And then it centralised it all into
Yeah.
like a waste bin in the garage, didn't it?
Yeah.
I forgot about that. Did we have that in our house?
One of the
Central
houses
vacuum?
we had it, yeah.
Yeah, I just don't remember. which house it was, or if it was in every house, we just didn't use it.
No, it wasn't in all the houses. It was just in one of them.
Yeah, I wonder if that was more of an old-fashioned thing or a modern thing. I don't know.
Because when I lived in Canada, everybody had central vacuum. That's where I first seen it.
Yeah.
And I thought, what's all these things in the wall?
Yeah.
And I realised it.
But it's even like going back to what we're saying there. That's some things but the perks I thought that was more beneficial in the USA was the air conditioning, the size of the rooms, and the size of the property you get for your value for money. There's no real value in housing. There is, but not a massive amount over here anymore.
No.
It's always going to go up in value, but it's a long-term investment. But yeah, it's the life of a house in the USA would made it a lot easier for a family than life in the house in the UK.
Yeah, I think it's quite expensive over here, especially if you want to live in an older house. It's constant renovations that need doing.
Yeah,
and they're very cold as well.
Yeah, they are. They're built. I mean, some of the houses over here dates back to like 1300s.
Yeah.
They're not even beyond that sort of thing. But it's I'm more of a modern sort of like architecture fan, where I like it all very nice and clean and cut down the side clean, this clean, that joint clean. I don't like the overlapping, ancient sort of like looking. Although I would live in a church.
Yeah.
I'd convert a church and live in a church.
I'd like to live in like an old, Victorian house.
Quick story about living in a church, and this is something the Church of England was selling off a lot of churches, but it was about 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And I got invited down to go and look at a big church. We were looking for it as a warehouse, actually, wasn't we? So I thought it might work as a warehouse. Big high ceilings, kit it all out and use it as a warehouse. And when I went down, I was talking to the guy, and he said the only problem it doesn't come with is any car parking. So I said, that's fine, no one will be living here. I said, so it'd just be a delivery van, we had a little delivery slope that went up. I said, and that's all we'd need. So as I was talking to him, I said, there's this ground, I've got my hand leaning on a railing like this, and it's all overgrown like land that was at the side of the building. And I was just talking to him, leaning on it. I said, does all this land come with it as well? He went, it does, yeah. So I said, I can take all this out. I said, I can flatten it all and make a car park out of all that. And he went, yeah, if you can get the permission. I said, it won't be too hard. I said, look, it's just overgrown land. He went, no. It's a burial site for lepers. I went, what? Garden. It was a leprosy garden. I went, what? And I've got my arm on the thing. I went, He went, you're not going to catch it. I went, how do you know? He's like, just shaking his head at me. I'm like, nah. I'm like, put me right off that. I was like, I'm going. I went straight in my car and shot off. Never went back again. I just got freaked out by it.
There's a lot of people that live in churches now that have been done up.
Church of England was selling off. I think when I spoke to the guy, they were selling something like 1,400 churches in the UK. And they were going for a decent price. He said the only one the one that I was interested in, that was a different one. It was a nice little chapel. It was very small, and we were looking at it to do something work for business wise. And then we were doing something along the Halloween theme. I don't know, this sounds a bit crazy, but we're looking at something for a Halloween themed thing that was only going to be used year round, but it always continued to have that Halloween theme. And it came with a graveyard.
Yeah.
And he said to me, why would you want it with a graveyard? And I explained to him why I wanted it, and he went, that's quite a good idea. He said, because no one else has come to that, that approach with it sort of thing. So he said, well, he said, go with what you want, but they wouldn't give us the permission to do what we wanted to do. No. So we couldn't take the gamble for what it would cost to buy it, to put it together and do it all. Yeah. So we just said, let's leave it.
Yeah. But
yeah, that was a house by a grave. We could have turned it into a house. He did say you can make it a dwelling.
Yeah.
But it was a nice, 1,200 church, 1,200 something like that, 1,100. So it dated back to with a graveyard.
Problem is a lot of churches are on the main road, and I wouldn't want to live on a main road.
Yeah, I know what you mean. This was in a little dark lane.
Yeah. It
was real creepy.
Yeah.
So I don't think you'd have liked it.
No.
But it would have made a good business thing what we were trying to do.
Yeah.
But they're the differences. Living in the UK, living in the USA. My preference was always what you got in the USA was more value for money.
Yeah.
You weren't getting something that's going to last you 400, 500, 600 years. Whereas if you build a house in the UK, you probably will last for 500-600 years.
You could pass it down generations.
Yeah, and it'll still be in the same condition. So like as far as the structural side of it goes.
Yeah.
We don't have the extreme weather that they have in the USA with the rain, the snow, the tornadoes and the bloody hurricanes and all that kind of stuff that bashes the USA.
Yeah.
We don't get that over here.
No.
The worst we get is probably a little bit windy, occasionally.
Windy and rainy.
Rain. Yeah. Get the odd snowstorm for 2 weeks of the year maybe.
Yeah, but it's not much
frost.
snow. It's
more damp than anything, isn't it?
2 foot if that.
More damp if anything. But that's for me, I think for character and style and design, the UK wins.
Also, the price is a lot more expensive here to buy a house than it is.
Depends. I know what you mean, but you could buy a house in the centre of London and pay a few million, 15 million.
It's
and you
still
go
be big
to the
though.
It will be. It'd be nice in the centre of London. You can go and spend 20 million in London, say, and you went to somewhere in LA and tried to get something for 15, 20 million. You ain't getting much in some parts of LA
Yeah.
or New York.
Yeah.
You know, places like the big cities. So I think value depends on where you are. But you could go to sort of like certain parts of Georgia, for example,
Yeah.
and buy a good 5-bed house with a decent sized plot of land, with everything you got going for it, for like, you know, maybe 500 grand.
Yeah.
You know, where you wouldn't get that over here.
Yeah.
You'd struggle to get something for 300 grand over here
Yeah.
of any of that size.
Yeah.
You know, in a city somewhere like Atlanta or wherever you may be.
Yeah.
You know, the equivalent.
Yeah.
300 grand in Manchester, you're not getting nothing.
No. Well, we've seen people
Yeah,
trying to get on the
yeah.
property ladder and they can't.
No, you won't get much for 300,000 over here.
No.
£300,000, which is probably $400,000.
That would be an apartment, a one.
It'd be a one 2-bed apartment.
Yeah.
Yeah, in this area.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's that's the difference.
Yeah.
So, would you rather buy a house in the USA where it's a bit more spacious and you've got the luxuries that come with that space, or would you rather buy a vintage house in the UK that's got character, it's got history, it's got everything you want, but it's a lot smaller?
I think at this time in my life, I'd probably pick the smaller house. But when you're raising a family, it's nice to have the
Well, we did
bigger
that, didn't we?
house.
That's what we did. But it's, I agree with you. I think kind of agree. And it's, you know, the little villages you have. Watch out for the video as well. We will be doing videos of the villages we've lived in since we've come back to the UK.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I would go with the big American house in Manchester. I think that's my choice. Yeah, it's not going to happen. That's my choice. But yeah. Any other differences you can think of before we sign off?
No, not really. Just the difference between the basements and cellars. That was a big.
There's one thing I've noticed as well. Just a quick side note on this is when we had the houses in the USA, the shower and the power that came from the showers was always good.
Yeah.
Whereas you come here in some houses and it takes you half an hour just to get wet.
Yeah.
You have to move around to get wet. In some of the showers that you go in, especially in like some hotels, are pretty poor still.
The difference between the kitchens as well. The kitchens in what I found in the US were kind of a continuation of the downstairs living space. You didn't really have a separate kitchen. It was kind of a living room that went into a kitchen.
We had kind of like a den and a kitchen, didn't we, in the USA? We had a den to the side and it sort of like moved into the kitchen.
Yeah.
And the kitchen was it sort of like went den, dining room, kitchen, flowed into one.
Yeah, I guess so.
Sort of thing, and then we had the living rooms in the other sort of thing.
But if you think of Shannon Court, that was the kitchen was built into the living room.
Yeah, it was kind of it was all through. It was open plan.
Yeah,
you're right. You're right. But yeah, so my preference: American house in Manchester.
Yeah.
Anyway, hope you like that little episode of houses comparisons USA UK. Let us know if there's anything you want to know about in the comments where we want to compare, and we'll give you our honest opinion about what it is, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Bye.
Cheers.